So bear with us.
Yeah, thanks everybody for your patience. Okay, it looks like it's going through. Okay, and we're live.
Hi, everybody. This is Snowy.
Hi.
If you could all put your microphones on mute. We do not have the webinar feature yet. We're still in meeting. So if you guys could put your, hi, Mary. So if everybody could put themselves on mute. And I'd like to welcome everyone. This is our first cat chat about snow leopards and conservation education. And joining me today is Ashleigh Lutz-Nelson, excuse me, from the Snow Leopard Conservancy. She's our vice president. And Suraj Upadhaya. And Suraj is our guest. He's coming to us from Iowa State University. And Suraj, would you like to introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do at Ames and how you came to be there?
Thank you, Shavaun. Hi, everyone. I am Suraj Upadhaya. Originally, I am from Dolpa, Nepal, which is a prime habitat of snow leopard. So I did my schooling in Dolpa, and then I was a part of a junior ranger program of Snow Leopard Conservancy in 2000. And then after my high school in Dolpa, I did my high school in forestry from Institute of Forestry, Pokhara. If you're familiar with Nepal, Pokhara is a beautiful place. And then I did my undergrad in forestry in 2012, and then came to University of Kentucky for my master's in forestry, and then moved to University of Georgia in 2015 for my PhD. And then I completed my PhD in integrative conservation of nature and forestry, where I had to look the environmental problem through multiple perspectives, not only through forestry, but through economy, ecology, and then social perspective. And in 2019, I graduated with my PhD and then took a postdoc position here at Iowa State University, where I am working with, I moved from forestry, capital of forestry, Georgia, to capital of corn and soybean in Iowa. So here I'm working with farmers, understanding their conservation behaviors, stewardship behaviors. So more like social ecological, using social ecological lenses to look into farmers' behavior. I'm excited to share my experience and then how junior ranger program or like conservation education program influenced me from being such a remote and rural area, how I travel all the way here. I'm so excited to share information and then my experience with you.
Suraj, when you were a youngster in Nepal and how did you get involved with the Snow Leopard Ranger program? Was it a brand new program, and did they introduce it to you in school? Is that how you began with the program?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have to go back all the way to early days of my childhood. In 1994, there was a program called Park People Partnership funded by US Department of Interior and then Government of Nepal. And then my school, which was first English medium school in my town. My town is rural and remote, so there were no any good school at that time. So this Return Peace Corps volunteer collected fund and then started a school there. So when I was at that school, this Park and People Partnership program started an eco club in our school. So I was a part of the eco club and I was the first president of the eco club in our school. And then we were doing all these different conservation activities, like we have a eco club and then each one teach one, where each student have to teach one of their parents who are not educated. And then we have a children forest where we create a parcel of land where we do a lots of like plantation and then growing, like we call it a children forest. And then in 2000, my teacher, Nagendra Burathaki, if you Google him, you will see lots of information about him related with Snow Leopard Conservancy. Nagendra was here in the US, and then when he went back, he came up with this idea of a junior ranger program focusing on the school children, partnering with my school and the national park in my hometown, and then the Snow Leopard Conservancy. So that's how the Snow Leopard Conservancy Junior Ranger program was started over there in 2000. So I was a part of that through these, more or less, I will say, like a great contribution of Nagendra Burathoki.
So what was the funnest part about that? I mean, did you get to learn anything about camera trapping, or was it all classroom stuff, or did you get to go out in the field and look for snow leopards or their prey animals, or what did you do, hiking, or what did you do in the program?
Like I think like every day was fun during that time. Like if I remember now, like all those memories we used to do, like the Junior Ranger program had a structure course. It was a manual, it was a structure manual, and then we have a different, study plan within that, covering different subjects like pollution, our relation with the nature. And there were specific weeks where we used to focus on snow leopard. But over the time period of 1 year, we used to go for a hiking a lot, like walking along the river, walking on a forest, doing a bird watching. One of the main thing that it's still like I appreciate is like I start learning about birds and then learning about my nature, like area around me, environment area around me, like we were not appreciating what is around us or what is there. But because of the Junior Ranger program, we all started appreciating those small creatures to like a snow leopard. So that is the main thing that I still remember. Like we used to go out, do the bird watching. The first time we saw binocular was in 1996. Through these Park People Partnership, they brought up binoculars and then bird books for us. And then we just start going around our hometown and then like just to do bird watching and then prepare update a checklist. I helped these people from Park and People Partnership to update the bird checklist. So it was more like just connecting with the nature,
I found that with the youth that I've worked with here. I ran our junior zookeeper program at our local zoo for about 8 years, and the kids were ages 12 through 17. And how old were you? Were you elementary school age in your program up through, you said 10th grade?
7, 8 years.
I think maybe my computer locked up. The youth that I worked with here, they had classroom things that they had to learn. And we gave them like a miniature zoology program. They learned all about the different amphibians and reptiles and mammals and birds. But I think as they became more in tune with the animals that they were studying and would be talking about at the zoo, they too became more aware of what our animals are that live around here, the indigenous animals in Illinois, the possums and the coons and the deer and the fox and the coyotes, because these kids didn't necessarily have really experienced nature here either. And I think they too became more in tune with the natural world around them. And I think that's really important. I think that's something that we're so separated from today, is that we're part of nature, not living outside of nature. What was your experience, Ashleigh, the zoos that you've been at where you've worked with youth?
Yeah, hey everybody, happy Earth Day. Thanks for joining us. It's great to spend this day with you all. This is a really exciting topic for me and one I'm very passionate about. I grew up in Florida, and I was my father was a veterinarian, so the first camp I ever did was the Thumbs Up for Animals camp at the SPCA, where my father was the veterinarian. So it was mostly focused on learning how to care for animals in the shelter and pets, but we also worked with local wildlife too and learned more about conservation. It was a good introduction. And I stayed involved with that camp as I got older, but as I got older, I started getting more involved, and we lived right by the theme park. So I was a really lucky kid in that I was right around the corner from Busch Gardens, and Disney was only an hour and a half away. So I didn't do the camps at those places as a kid because they were more expensive, but I would get annual passes, and I was there almost every weekend. I certainly got my money's worth. And that was what introduced me to conservation education. I went to go see the tigers and spent time. So I ended up nailing my first job as a zookeeper at Lowry Park Zoo, and then at Busch Gardens. And then that's where we had an adventure camp where we mentored students that came through every summer, and they got to work alongside us and learn how to take care of the big cats and other carnivores and primates, and really learn how zoos are so important in the role of conservation through conservation breeding programs and education and supporting research that benefits the animals in the wild. So working directly with those kids has been one of the highlights of my careers, and staying in contact with the kids that were in the Thumbs Up for Animals camp at the SPCA and at Busch Gardens. And it's so neat to see what everybody goes on to do, because when you're a kid, you don't know about all your options. You think that you can be a vet or you can be a ranger, and you don't know about all these other jobs in between. So having those experiences like the Junior Ranger program that Suraj is involved in, or like the ones at the zoos where Shavaun and I have been involved in, are so important. And I always encourage all the kids just to try a bunch of different things and see what you like, and follow your heart and see what you're passionate about.
Yeah, we had I've kept in touch with the students that I worked with, and one is the director of a wildlife conservation center out in Oregon. Another girl became a keeper and was at the St. Louis Zoo and took care of the elephants. Another young lady is in Montana, and she's working at a zoo in Montana. So they're everywhere. And of course, a lot of them went on to do other things. We have a lawyer and we have a clinical psychologist and that, but it seemed that they really enjoyed that program. And I had the students said to me, I never enjoyed it so much. You made it so much fun. Learning was fun. And I think that's what wouldn't you agree, Suraj, that these programs make science, they make learning fun, because you actually get to experience it instead of just being told about it. Wouldn't you agree, guys, that that's part of it? It's part of you're experiencing rather than just reading about it.
Yeah, sorry, I was disconnected, but like adding on what Ashleigh mentioned and then Shavaun mentioned, one of the things that was very, very influencing on me was the career, choosing career. Like the place that I am from, or in general in Nepal, like being a doctor or engineer is like a main career path. And then, but when I joined Junior Ranger program, I learned about this conservation career in conservation science, and then like I was like, every time if someone asked me before I joined Junior Ranger, if someone asked me like, what do you want to be? I used to say like a pilot. And then after I started Junior Ranger, then I was like, I want to be a park ranger, I want to be a warden, national park warden. And then after that, after Junior Ranger program, I was always focused on going to the forestry school. That's why I did my high school forestry, especially in Nepal. After grade 10, we can choose like where do we want to go, like a forestry or engineering or nursing. So I chose a forestry for 2 years, which is like a junior ranger, which is like a ranger program. And then I did undergrad forestry. So that like junior ranger really, really helped me to choose this conservation science career path. And then when I reflect back, I think like I did a good job now. Like I enjoy every time. The big thing is that what I'm doing right now is the things that I want to do. I am not doing anything that I have to do. Everything I'm doing now is the things that I want to do. So, and then another thing that, important is that lots of time, this type of conservation education program not only teach this student about environment or conservation or appreciating nature, but also it influences our parents. Like my parents are are not educated, they never get a chance to go back to school, but we as a child had a chance to go to school, learn something, and then when we come back to home, we share our information with them, like we say, like, okay, these are the things you can do, it will impact our nature, like just a simple thing like recycling, just a simple thing like appreciating nature, like using improved cookie stove instead of those firewoods. So this conservation education program not only affects the individual children, but also affects his or her
Exactly.
parents, and then the whole community, whole village. So I think like that's the one of the important thing I see as a value of conservation education or the program like Junior Ranger.
I have to echo that. I would do a lot of school programs, and I would run into families later, and parents would, or at other events, and parents would remark to me, wow, I know the difference between a jaguar and a leopard because my child came home and told me that there's definitely a difference in how I should recognize them. Or my child came home and told me that I need to not be using styrofoam and that we should be, using something else. And it spreads out from the child because they're like little sponges, and they take it all home. And of course, they can't wait to share their experience with their folks. But it's not just facts and figures. They're actually absorbing important information, things that are going to affect their lives. And they do share it with parents. And I think that's the same whether, wherever you live, that it is, they do share that with their parents, and it does expand into the community. But that's good to hear. Ashleigh, did you have that similar experience where the children that you were working with would go and share it with their families, and you could see that it was expanding into the community?
Yeah, definitely. The kids that I've stayed in contact with, I know that, their families, I've become quite close with them and know that their families are very supportive. A lot of those kids went on to become veterinarians and go on to be zookeepers and to get more involved in conservation. So I've definitely seen it on my end as well, going through the zoo programs, the zoo education programs.
Yeah,
and also it looks like Dr. Jackson was able to join us. Dr. Jackson, do you want to unmute yourself and say hello?
Okay, there we are. Now I got it. It was being a little slow. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Suraj, Shavaun, and also Linda, yes, and Dale, and Raja. Nice to see you all, yes. And Suraj, I haven't seen you for quite a long time. We were in the same country right now.
Yeah.
So I missed part of it because I had trouble getting in. Actually, I'd have find the back door in, as it were. But I just want to say, Suraj has been an incredible life that he's gone through, from the most remote part of Nepal, Dolpo, to a school there in our Junior Rangers, which his school was located in a national park. Maybe you've already talked about the Suraj, Shavaun, that had a sister park relationship with Lassen Park in Northern California. And they had started Junior Ranger program in Nepal. And then, of course, one of the budgetary changes or a change of president, maybe both, the funds disappeared. And we were asked, Darla and I, back in 2005, would we help take over that Junior Ranger program? And I'm so glad we did, because I know you've now gone through your PhD and you're going to go back, I very much hope, to Nepal, and you're going to make such a huge difference to, the lifestyle, the livelihoods and enterprises of the people that live in these remote rural areas. So anyway, short story.
Yeah, you sum up like what I will take 2 hours to explain. You sum up in like a minute. So thank you, Dr. Jackson, for whatever you did for us, Yeah.
Well, it's a challenge for everybody, I think, really is. And it's a teamwork that is going to make the difference ultimately. And we would hope that, I mean, our goal, obviously, our dream is that local people living on the edge don't see the snow leopard as a pest, but come to see it as an asset that's going to add not only cultural or spiritual values to their lives, but, help feed the family and get the kids to school, all of that.
It's true.
Well,
Yeah,
Suraj,
it's like,
what do you see? I guess I could ask the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? But what do you see in your future beyond Iowa State? I know that you said that you're done there in July. What is the next step for you? Where are you headed in your educational, and as an educator and as a scientist, where are you headed next, do you think?
yeah, that's a good question, especially in the mid of pandemic. It's a hard question for it.
Yeah.
but my career plan is to be in academia and then do the research on human dimension aspects of nature conservation. And then either it can be in Nepal or it can be anywhere here or any part of the world, but I will be working for Nepal. That's definitely true. And then that's why I've already started my organization called Himalayan Conservation and Research Institute, through which I am doing a small program in my hometown and other parts of Nepal on doing small research on looking into human wildlife conflict and then some other issues on human dimension of natural resources. So I'll be more within the nature conservation. I can't go away from conservation science. So that's a what you call that, a big picture in my mind, but specifically I have to work on those small parts and then join them, and then where I will be, getting a job, it's so tough right now, and then getting a job in Nepal, it's so tough right now. So it's a challenging, like the few next year, few more years will be challenging, but one of the main career goal is to work on human dimension of natural resources for the Himalayas.
Since you were a child to now, do you see that there's been an impact of programs like the Junior Rangers and the Snow Leopard Scouts and all the programs that, like in the United States, the zoos are doing with conservation education and junior zookeepers and summertime youth programs? Do you see an impact in what's happening in the field, all these education programs that we're doing, that all the conservationists are doing, no matter what animal? Have you seen an impact on how the animals are thought of, as something that belongs in the environment rather than as a pest to be gotten rid of? Do you actually see a better people working within their environment more than against it? Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's what you call that. I think as a conservation science student, like humans are one of the main problem of nature. We are the big threats for the conservation, or we are the big threats for the nature. And then if we don't have awareness, or if we don't develop a stewardship towards nature, then we are not going to achieve any of our conservation objective. And then that's where this conservation education plays roles, and especially in a country like underdeveloped Nepal, where literacy rate is very low, in that part, people are not able to get formal education. This conservation education type of program, informal education, are very, very effective. Even in a Dolpa, from my experience, when I was a child, I used to see a lot of illegal poaching of mox deer. And then after we started junior ranger program, and then there were more than 20 schools from all around the Dolpa participating on junior ranger program, and that started creating a lot of these rumors, or sharing information around our villages about importance of mox deer, and then how it will affect our nature if we start killing it. And then within 5 to 10 years, now I don't see any news of mox deer hunting in my hometown. Yes.
Wow.
It might be effects of other issues, but definitely I attribute towards these effects of junior ranger program or some other conservation education program. because like people are surviving to get basic needs over there. So like they're the only way for us to make them aware is this sort of informal program where these are low stake, you know, they don't have to give exam. Like one of the good thing with junior ranger program is that no one will come and ask us like, okay, you are going to have an exam tomorrow on this topic, you know. So we were free from that pressure. So as we didn't have that pressure, we were so much interested on junior ranger program or other activities. And then another thing, like Shavaun, when you said that effects or what do you call that, positive contribution, we used to say that once a junior ranger, always a junior ranger,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, we used to say that. I still remember. That means that like, if I am a junior ranger, that means once a junior ranger means once a conservation minded, always a conservation minded. That's I used to refer, you know? So like, we are the part of the society. The junior ranger is part of the society. So when he grow up or when she grows up, then they are part of society, and then they are already aware about importance of nature, or like they know how to conserve our nature. Then like we will not have a problem. And that's what I see in my hometown or beyond my hometown. Like there are some positive effects of this type of conservation education. And then in the US also, like during my 7 or 8 years of experience as a graduate student, I didn't have that much experience, but I had a chance to work with sometime in summer with school children and then like high school children. Like definitely like they are so much interested on conservation. And then they, again, like the thing is that this conservation education are informal. That means they don't have to feel a pressure, you know. If I'm taking some course, I feel pressure, I have to maintain grade. But with the junior ranger program, we didn't have a pressure to maintain grade. That means like we are free to learn what we want to learn. So definitely, yeah, like I see a lots of values on this type of conservation education program. And then conservation education program not only impact that individual, as I mentioned earlier, it impact family, it impact people of all ages, you know, it impacts people of all ages. So definitely, yeah, there is a lots of value. That's why I want Dr. Rodney, we need to start junior ranger program again in Dolpa.
That's something you guys can do together. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that you brought up such an excellent point, is that it's not something you did, it's who you become. It becomes part of you. Just it's a cultural thing. You become, everyone can be a conservationist. And I think that's the big thing I learned in grad school, was that conservation isn't just science. It's sociology, it's anthropology, it's economics, it's politics. I learned from the WCN Expo several years ago. There's a lady from Colombia who studies the little cotton-top tamarins. She's an architect, and her very first job out of college was to design an exhibit at her local zoo in Colombia for cotton-top tamarins. Now she works in the field and with people. She's a conservationist, but everyone can be a conservationist, and it becomes part of who we are and how we look at the world, rather than just a job, something that you do. And I think it's so good to hear that it's made such an impact, even in where, like for snow leopards, in snow leopard countries where people are dealing with this big predator in their backyard, that it's becoming again part of who we are and not just something that you do. And that's so heartwarming. Ashleigh, did you have something to add to that from your experiences?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more that conservation really takes everybody with different skill sets. You know, we have to approach it from all different angles. And, you know, it's not just one person that can save a species. I mean, Dr. Jackson's done an amazing job the last 40 years, but it takes so many people with different skill sets to come at this from all angles, people with finance backgrounds, people with marketing, people, you know, with land use. I mean, just so many different facets. So it's encouraging to see all of these these alignments since the pandemics happened. We're seeing a lot more alignment with the Sustainable Development Goals, and people from all different sectors coming together and realizing that we can't do this alone. We have to, we're stronger together, and we have to move forward all together towards sustainability for biodiversity and to maintain critical natural resources that sustain humanity. So it's a really interesting time. And this Junior Ranger program, it's so important to continue this. And this is something I think Dr. Jackson wanted to add a comment about the Junior Ranger program in Dalpo. These all of our conservation programs. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and we've been able to reach over 17,000 students and kids in with our conservation education programs. And then that those kids go to their families, and that just exponentially continues from there. And this is something that's very important to us to continue and move into all the communities and have the communities learn from each other. And that's how we really make big waves and make big shifts toward saving these incredible species that protect the ecosystems where we live.
I think that's a good analogy, Ashleigh. Just a little ripple in your local pond is going to turn into a big wave as it moves further and further out. And that the one little thing that you do can have a great effect over a larger community. And so we can't ever take for granted the little program that you were involved in 7th grade or whatever, because that's going to have a big ripple effect into the future. I know we were getting some questions in the chat. Ashleigh, did you have a chance to see those?
Let me just follow up a quick on Junior Ranger. So I think, I think it's going to be people that have been through the Junior Ranger program that are living in Dalpo and want to live in Dalpo that are going to resurrect a lot of that program. And we do have a young lady now, Serin Lamulamo, who has just got her master's degree and is really concerned about this human-wildlife conflict. She's in Dalpo right now, working actually with a filmmaker as well. But what she wants to do is to recruit a number of the younger kids around there to act as monitors of snow leopards. We'll provide them with camera traps, with fox lights, so they can reduce the depredation issues. And, they'll be the spokespersons from within the community. And I think for SLC, our goal really is to build up a team and try to do it on the basis of long-term sustainability, so that they don't depend on outside resources all the time. Or if the outside resources are needed, they're relatively modest and they can be provided fairly easily. So I do see this as an endogenous program, and it also depends on communication. So Dalpo, before, you would have to walk for a week or more to get to the nearest road head, probably 3 weeks. That is changing. Roads are going up into the mountains. But what is changing even more rapidly, I think, is this communications. So now you'll find in these high areas, suddenly somebody pulls out a cell phone and they turn it on. They don't see a signal. And they say, okay, we'll be back in a while. And they run up on the hillside, right? And they're talking to somebody in Kathmandu. Well, if we can get more of those communications in place, then we can do Zoom meetings, and we can have students, hopefully from America, or some other place or other parts of Nepal, talking with students in Dalpo. I mean, that would be a dream, I guess.
That'd be great. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, and be able to provide, trainings such as, veterinary training and things that can help improve the community's livelihoods. We have a question from Raja. What is the status of snow leopards in Nepal? Any reliable census data? I've heard Nepal's tiger population has doubled since 2020. Wondering if there's something similar for snow leopards.
Do you want to answer, Suraj, or should I?
I am not sure the latest census for snow leopards. So I think you can answer that question. Yeah.
Well, I think Nepal, for a small country and one of the poorest countries in the world, have done remarkably well. They are ahead of many countries in bringing tigers back. Rhinos have increased, and last year, I understand it, there was no poaching, or maybe it would be early last year before the pandemic. Anyway, they've been able to deal with all of that. They're in the middle right now of having partially completed camera trap nationwide with different players. Unfortunately, they did not get the funds to allow for a coordinated survey, but each NGOs, including ours, have taken on a part of it. And for example, we have provided funding for snow leopards to be surveyed in Annapurna. We didn't do the work. We handed it over to the managers of the area. And we also just gave a grant to the national park in Mount Everest. And they are embarking on the survey there. So hopefully we'll have a definitive number within 3 or 4 months. Right now, I would say the number is around 400 snow leopards in Nepal, which is, you know, for a small country that only has about, well, I can tell you in square kilometers, it's probably about 20,000 square miles of habitat suitable for snow leopards. They are probably on the rank of the 12 countries, maybe 5th, maybe pushing for 4th in terms of having the largest number. So they're doing well. They're doing very well. And maybe it's their Buddhist nature and Buddhist culture that has a lot to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I believe. So like the cultural connection of people from the snow leopard habitat plays an important role. The issue is, yeah, like again, like conflict is one of the issue. But what I have heard, like when I was doing my undergrad research, when I was surveying people, I found some people who were angry with snow leopard. They didn't kill snow leopard. They hired someone out of their society or community to kill the snow leopard. So like that was the interesting thing. And then that will connect with the Tibetan religion, or like a Buddhist culture, religion, or Tibetan culture, or like more it's like a religious thing. Like they were against killing snow leopard, but as a part of the retaliatory killing, like because they lost livestock and everything, they hired someone who is outside of their community or religion to kill the snow leopard. So that was a striking thing for me.
Wow.
Yeah, excellent.
So they brought someone in from outside to do it then, Suraj.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. That's something.
But if I can just, so you mentioned the livestock, you know, and obviously to these people, that's their livelihood and so on. Is there anything in any programs to either compensate them for livestock that's killed, or there are organizations that have, you know, guard dogs looking after the livestock and scaring other predators away? Anything like that?
Guard dog is always what you call it, a practice that's been with the Trans-Himalayan pastoral system. But like we have a livestock insurance program that had been established through the contribution of different organization. I don't know how Snow Leopard Conservancy contributed in Dolpa, but Northern Mountain Conservation Project, which was part of the WWF, they helped these different communities in Upper Dolpa to have run a livestock insurance program. But recently there was a study by a couple of people about looking into the effectiveness. It's not that much effective because of like it involves money, right? So there are lots of issues going on, but yes, we do have. And then I see that as one of the important. Few days ago, I gave a presentation to Ministry of Environment for our state, and then I explicitly mentioned that livestock insurance program is going to be one of the effective tools for minimizing human snow leopard conflict or human wildlife conflict. Recently, if you are familiar on social media, there was an accident where snow leopard killed more than 500 goats and sheep of people, one of the person from Dolpa, where I am from. And then there was a big issue around our state, in our province. And then like, we don't have enough resources to compensate that. And then I just told to this minister, like, we need to have like an effective policy to compensate those people. Otherwise, like they will go hire someone and kill snow leopard or do the retaliatory killing. So we need to address that issues. Yeah. we do have a livestock insurance program. Maybe Dr. Jackson can add something on that from the other part of the world too.
Well, before I do that, I just want to welcome one of our partners, Ghulam Mohammed from Pakistan. It's pretty late at the night there, I think.
Hello, Ghulam.
Hello, Ghulam. I don't know
Hi, Kalam.
if you have good enough contact or not.
Hello, Rodney and Ashleigh. How are you?
Hello, welcome.
Hi.
How are you
Thank you.
doing?
Nice session. Yeah, I just woke up.
Maybe you
Your-
could share some of your experiences with your livestock insurance programs that you have up in Hushay and so on. We were just talking about the importance of, of finding some way of minimizing the impact of depredation on livestock owners.
Yes, please. Yeah, we are we have livestock insurance in different areas, mainly in Hoshe and Krabathang area, where snow leopard attack on mostly on people livestock. So we started this livestock insurance gradually in the Hoshe in 2007. So later on in Basha Valley. So now we have some two kinds of insurance. One is we are increasing their funds with some other NGOs with WWF. When WWF came, so we made a endowment fund. So through endowment fund, we are utilizing the profit for the livestock insurance. And some other areas, we are giving our own system livestock insurance, the funds from BW Studio to the community, and the community also share their compensation. So such program. So every year, the predations nearby the villages are increasing because in Hoshe, snow leopards population has increased. So such kind of insurance we are providing in the communities. Recently in Krabathang, there are 6 livestock killed by snow leopard. We also compensated and some claims are pending. So livestock insurance is very important for the community because if snow leopard kills their livestock, so if no one compensates, so they retaliate and they kill. So this is the problem we are facing. And mostly the donors, it's difficult to say you are our main donor because you are also supporting for our work like research and some other small projects, especially the conservation education. So there's a good project to give awareness, but alternately we need to give them livestock insurance and also this predator proof corrals. So BW Studio so far constructed 53 corrals, and this year we are going to construct 7 more corrals in different communities because our corrals model has a successful model in Pakistan especially. So in sometimes you already know about in our areas, mostly snow leopard killed mass killing. It happened in many places, either the wolf and the snow leopard. And sometimes wolf killed the goat and sheep, then people claim, oh, this is snow leopard. And when we will investigate again, this is by wolf. So both projects, the projects we are doing like a predator proof corral, livestock insurance, and conservation education, also research. These 4 key components we are doing. Yeah, those are needed for the communities. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ghulam. Yeah. And thank you for being up in the middle of the night or middle of the morning.
Yeah, I was.
For those of you who might have just joined us recently, we've been talking about conservation education youth programs here in the United States and in snow leopard range countries. And our special guest today has been Suraj. He's a research associate in teaching at Iowa State University right now in Ames. And joining us also has been Rodney Jackson, our director, and Ashleigh Lutz-Nelson, our vice president. And then now we have Ghulam Mohammed. He also has been doing a lot of education with youth in Pakistan. And Ghulam, I think you joined us a little bit late, but we've been talking about how the education programs not only help the children to understand and connect with nature, but it also filters back to their families and their parents and the community. And is that what you've seen, Ghulam, also in your with your education programs? Is that it's what the students have learned they take back to? Did we lose him? Oh, there you are. Do they take that back to their families and then their communities, at large, what they've learned in the education programs that they learn with you?
Yes, please. Education program is wonderful. Basically, we started awareness in 2007 in Basha Valley. This is first time BW Studio started like conservation education in the area where no education for the girls. We started with small groups gradually. Now our model like this conservation education awareness every year increasing. We celebrate Snow Leopard Day on 23rd October. So during this ceremony, from each village, not only the students, their parents also participating, and also line departments. We invite them. So it's a big gathering, like more than like 1,000 to 1,500 people get together in this place, because when we started, there were no girls education. So BW Studio took initiative. So now we have more than 1,000 girls they enrolled in the schools, and also we are giving like these campaigns. So it's kind of model for the whole region. It's I can say it's a kind of revolution. Before BW Studio intervention, there were open killing of ibex. There were no conservation. Now I must say, in the valley, there is no open illegal hunting. No one can kill. If someone kill, so there will be fine from the community. So everyone is getting like awareness. Also, it's a kind of, I must say, it's a kind of markup for BW Studio and SLC. So this program, this conservation awareness supported by SLC. So we are like expanding this model for other areas in coming future. Yes, please.
Suraj, in your in the Snow Leopard Ranger program, was it mostly boys or was it evenly divided between boys and girls that took part when you were a youth?
It was a mixed type. Like we didn't have that much issues with being a boy, more boys or less girls, something like that. Like Turing that Dr. Rodney Jackson mentioned earlier. She was also she was also an early junior ranger from our program, from our school. And then I remember like there were lots of female students too, girls too. So it was not that big issues in my school, but in my region, yes, female education was low. Now it's improved. At that time, like I will say like 30-70%, like 30% female, 70% male. That is to be the ratio. But now it's like I will say 50-50 or something like that. So it's not that bad.
Ghulam has been very successful in involving girls in his education programs. That's why I asked, and it's so funny here in the education programs that I took part in the Nashville Zoo and here at Niabi Zoo, it was mostly girls and not very many boys. And so it's kind of a backwards thing, but I was interested to know in Nepal if it was evenly between boys and girls or if it was more the boys, but you're seeing now it's more evenly between the two.
Yeah,
that are getting involved now.
Yeah, it's evenly between the two. But one of the important thing I want to add with that is that as I start working, I have been involved with some other informal conservation education program. And then we thought that women are the important part, or female are the important part of nature conservation. If we can make them aware, we can make whole family aware, right? If we can make one man aware, then he might be only person that can be aware. But if we make mother aware, then she is going to influence the whole family. So through a small organization called Seed Tree, I have been involved on organizing this informal education class for at least 25 females from different parts of Nepal every year. You know, why female? They are part of the family. They do everything. They are the first person of the family that get connected with the nature. They have to go to collect the firewood. They have to go to collect the water. They have to go and bring fodder for their livestock, right? So if we can make them aware, then we are making a strong bond between that house and then the nature. So like what you call that, is strictly aligned with Ghulam Muhammad, that it is so important for female education, and then focusing on that, because like especially from underdeveloped countries like Nepal, female are the one who are directly connected with the nature, and if we can address the female education, then we will be able to achieve our objective. Yeah,
That's excellent. Thanks, Suraj.
Yeah,
Ashleigh,
thank
did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And I thank you so much for sharing both your comments on that. And I just wanted to announce that we do have a visitor from India as well. Tariq is from the Indian Science Writers Association in New Delhi, and is into conservation awareness and science communications programs, and would love to connect. So thank you so much, Tariq, for announcing that, and we'll definitely exchange information so we can keep the conversation going. I wanted to get to a couple more questions here from the other participants. We have a question from Paige about which country has the smallest snow leopard population. And she says she's been a fan of SLC for a while. Thank you for that. So the smallest population, Rodney, do you know what it is currently?
Yes, that's Uzbekistan, which is one of the former Soviet republics, and it's right on the edge of the range. And I believe it has less than 10 snow leopards.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Here's another question along the same. It says, I realize this might be a slightly silly question, but considering how endangered snow leopards are, wouldn't introducing them to other areas of the planet be some sort of solution, somewhere where farmers wouldn't hunt them for fur or out of desperation? So they're specifically adapted to live in the areas, the regions, the mountains where they live in Central Asia. They've evolved there to live with the prey. So that area is specially adapted. They're specially adapted to that space. And it's it's a large range throughout Central Asia. I don't know if I can pull my map up here to show you, but this area, they're a very important part of that ecosystem, and moving them or introducing them into another area would disrupt that part of the ecosystem. But it's a good question to consider, thinking outside of the box. But the area where they live in is considered the third pole. It's one of the most important water sources in the world, and that's why it is it's such an incredibly special place, and it provides it's sustaining at least a third of the world's population with natural resources. So it's an incredibly important place, and they manage the whole ecosystem by managing the prey populations. They control the prey population numbers, which then protects the land, which then protects the resources for all of life. So it's a very important part. They're an incredibly important part of the ecosystem.
And I would add there's the cultural connection, of course, with
Right.
the people. It would be kind of like saying, well, what happens if we have too few bald eagles? We should send them to another country, and this is our national identity. So snow leopards are the national identity of several of these countries. So I would say protect their habitat. If we don't do that, we're going to lose them. No matter, we can't keep them in zoos, we can't keep them in another country. So let's protect them in situ, in nature.
Exactly.
In addition to that, I think looking into the importance of snow leopard and the community, I think the important thing is to build a coexistence so that both of them have their balanced life there. Because presence of snow leopard is a sign of how healthy that fragile high altitude ecosystem is. So if we, as Ashleigh mentioned, if we take out snow leopard from there, then we are disturbing whole ecosystem. So yeah, we need to build some coexistence there and then provide a good habitat for them.
Well, I think we've touched on it. Yeah, thanks. We've touched on a lot of really important topics about coexistence and women in conservation, and how conservation isn't just about science. It's about culture and money and politics and everything that we do. But conservation education is very important. And as Suraj has been telling us, it's not just for the kids. They bring it home to the families, and the families share it with their communities and their neighbors, and it becomes part of who you are, not what you do or what you think, but it might have been a lost cultural thing, but now it becomes something new. And that's important whether we're here in the United States, and like I deal with coyotes and fox and bald eagles here, and don't see any cougars, but we have bobcats, or whether you're in Nepal and you're dealing with the indigenous species there. We all have to and should learn to coexist with nature and realize that we're part of it, not separate from it. And I think like Ghulam has been doing a terrific job there in Pakistan, and Suraj, you've been doing a terrific job. It'll be fun to watch where you go in the next 5, 10, 15 years, where you're headed. And right now you're connecting with college students who are a completely different animal. And sometimes they're hard to deal with. They have their mindset on a thing, and they're idealists, and they haven't been out in the real world yet. And I imagine you are really bringing the real world to them. And so I imagine it's been fun to be there in an ag college in a different aspect. But I really appreciate you joining us today. I appreciate Ghulam. That's wonderful that you signed on. And Dr. Jackson, thank you so much for joining us, and Ashleigh. And this has been a wonderful conversation. We're going to be doing these about once a month. So we look forward to talking to you again through Facebook. And once we get all this software stuff, Zoom figured out with Facebook. Ashleigh, congratulations. You did a great job.
Thank you so much for joining.
Who joined us today. This has been fun. I've learned a lot. This has been a lot of fun. And if everybody has questions, if you want to leave them on Facebook, we can answer them after we end the Zoom. We'll try to address everything. So we will get to each and every one of your questions. I'll put a post up on Facebook where you can ask questions when this is over, because sometimes it's hard to leave questions on the Facebook Live. So I'll put a post thing up so that everybody can answer that. So again, thank you all. It's almost 5:30, so we're going to be getting off of here. So Ghulam can go have breakfast, and some of us can go have dinner. And again, thank you, Suraj, so much. And that's a great picture of you and your dog. Now you and your dog can go for a walk now.
Thank you. It was good to see you, everyone. And then I owe a big thanks to Dr. Jackson and Snow Leopard Conservancy. What I am right now is because of some contribution from Dr. Jackson, Darla, Snow Leopard Conservancy, and then Peace Corps volunteer like Catherine and then other people. So I'm really, really thankful. And then great to see you all.
Yeah, thank you for what you're doing, and Ghulam for what you are doing, for sure. You are the forefront of protection of snow leopards, no doubt. So thank you all for attending. I appreciate your support, and thank you, Shavaun and Ashleigh. I'm sorry I missed the first part, but I eventually found a way in.
And if I could put a plug in for WCN Spring Expo, it's not live this year. The spring one isn't. We're hoping for fall, but it is virtual, and it is this Saturday online. So if you guys want more conservation, this Saturday, the WCN Wildlife Conservation Network is doing their Spring Expo, and the main stage and the booths are all free. You can join. So just go to their website. But Dr. Jackson and Ashleigh will be there to answer your questions in our booth, and I might be stopping by. So hope to see you all there. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice Earth Day, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Happy Earth Day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.